You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audiobook club.
Thanks for checking out today's episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. This is our Season 1 finale. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny, joined by Dennis.
Yo.
And Francis.
Present.
Today we are discussing Richard Stark's Parker the Hunter by Darwyn Cooke. We hope you have already read today's title because all three of us have, and we will be discussing it. So beware, spoilers ahead. We would love for you to share your opinion and thoughts on our social media. Our Twitter account is @GN Explorers Club. We're on Facebook. And you can also email us at gnexplorersclub@gmail.com. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever podcasts are available. We will have a bonus episode next week covering Flashpoint by Jeff Johns. I almost said his name incorrectly. Jeff Johns. Me personally, I would just like to say thank you to everyone out there that has listened to the podcast and promoted it for us. We really appreciate that. We know there's many other podcasts you can be listening to, so we appreciate you listening to ours. Dennis, Francis, anything you guys would like to say?
Ditto.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. And I'd also like to thank our significant others for allowing us to do this every week. I'm sure we've annoyed plenty of people.
Definitely.
Especially my girlfriend, Sasha, who our house is invaded quite a bit by podcasting. So, yeah, thank you, Sasha. All right, let's get into our Season 1 finale. Again, it's Richard Stark's Parker the Hunter. A very long title by Darwyn Cooke. Again, there will be the bonus episode next week covering Flashpoint by Jeff Johns. And then we'll be back probably in June with a arc covering Preacher, probably the first 3 volumes of Preacher. So we look forward to checking that out, and I hope you will too. And today we're looking at Darwyn Cooke's adapted and illustrated version of Richard Stark's Parker the Hunter. That's a really long title, and I don't even know what it's officially titled as. Is it Richard Stark's Parker the Hunter? Is that the whole title? Because the original title is just The Hunter.
Okay.
But,
well, they made a big deal out of the fact that he can actually use the name Parker.
Yes, and I was going to address that. So Richard Stark is the pen name of Donald E. Westlake, who passed away in 2008. And the character Parker was originally adapted as a movie with Lee Marvin back in the 60s. I cannot remember the name of the book off the top of my head. And then it was done in the late 90s with Mel Gibson in Payback.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah.
That's funny because it reminded me a lot of that.
Yep.
Was this actually?
Yeah. They adapted the movie off of...
That makes a lot of sense now.
The original book, not Richard Stark's Parker the Hunter, adapted and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke.
Right. Wow. File that one.
But I think in that one he's named Punchy. What's his character's name?
Remember.
No. Oh, you're looking at me.
I like that movie a lot, though. But quick question regarding that: Did Darwyn Cooke's adaptation come out before or after he died?
I think he got permission to do this, obviously before he passed away.
Okay.
And I'm trying to read here real quick. 2010 is 2011 when this was published.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if it was like, his estate said, yeah, he's dead. You can go ahead and use the name now.
No, I believe he got permission to use the name.
Okay, so that's why the story seems so familiar to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never read any of the Parker books. Have you guys?
No. I saw that movie. That's about it.
I've never even seen the Lee Marvin original.
Yeah, which is funny because I used to watch those kind of movies with my dad all the time, especially Lee Marvin, like Dirty Dozen, that kind of stuff, and I don't recall that movie at all.
No.
I'm going to look it up now.
I was not. I guess there's 2 different versions of Payback. There's the studio cut and then the director's cut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he was a little bit more in tune with the book, where he was a lot more violent towards everybody, including women,
kidding.
Which we'll get into. In this, so.
No kidding.
So, book starts off with Parker walking on, I'm assuming Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah,
because he's in New York, right?
Yeah.
Takes place in New York. No, are you Francis, are you here?
I'm head nodding. I'm head nodding.
She's just,
Our listeners can hear me nod aggressively.
she's conserving her anger.
Yes.
That will
Yeah.
soon
Well,
die.
it's broken up into 4 books.
Correct.
Right.
And so it starts, like you said, on the bridge.
Yes, and he's walking into traffic and doesn't seem to give a shit that he's literally in traffic, stopping cars, and people are looking at him as he walks by. And then it goes into explaining he's here for revenge. Basically, not revenge per se. He wants his money. That's
Right.
yeah. I mean, he's gonna get revenge on the person that double crossed him, but he basically wants his money.
Right.
So, and if you've seen Ransom, then you are aware of that. So what do you guys want to start with? Discussion of the story or the illustrations, or
Well, overall, we'll go into the fact that I did love some of the stuff I loved. I love the illustrations. I'm a big fan of Darwyn Cooke. I like his kind of minimalist style.
it fits this era too?
Yeah, this is very much
because
the guys are tough as nails, the drinks are stiff, and the dames are as deadly as they are beautiful, kind of thing.
It made me think of Don Draper in Mad Men, but if he was
More punchy.
a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If he was a sociopath.
And I did love. So this is another comic book. It's kind of more black and white, but there's a lot of gray and blue.
Yeah, it's almost a slate. It's like a
Yeah.
slatish gray blue.
For sure.
But it was never too monotone for me. Like I really liked it and how he uses light and dark to emphasize certain things. Black and white yelling. And the drawings. Okay, all the women have big boobs. Like everybody's just like big boobs, but
So you're listing off all the positives again.
right, yeah. But it does kind of fit with the story in this case, I will say.
But so Sasha and I, the official girlfriend of this particular podcast.
Yes, we all date her.
Yes. It's true.
We just watched a Gentleman Prefer Blondes.
I
Oh
love
yeah,
that movie.
Marilyn Monroe. Yeah.
And from this this takes place late 50s, early 60s. Everyone had super pointy boobs.
Yeah, well,
which-
that was the style of bra they had.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the story starts off with him walking on the bridge, and then he's basically got nothing but the clothes that he's wearing, and it shows how resourceful he is in conning and tricking, and
That's putting it lightly in some cases, though. It's not even like conning and tricking, like as if he's nice about it. It's
he's blatantly ripping.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, though. He's very resourceful and just basically getting what he needs.
Yeah.
and stealing what he needs, etc.
Like he makes a fake ID. Just basically goes around to banks saying, "I forgot my account number. Here's my ID."
Until someone says, "Yep."
Here you go, and then he from there he gets a suit and a watch and
Right.
looks spiffy again, and then from there it goes into him meeting his estranged wife, and then you find out. Try not to do too many spoilers here on the book. Why he's there to see her, and
Well, I think we have to cover spoilers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right.
You can't discuss it.
We
Sorry,
always
that's
do
it.
spoilers, yeah.
Find out later.
Well, so the story is told in flashback. And so you see this guy,
present
Parker.
flashback, present.
Yeah.
Flashback.
Yeah.
So Parker, he's on the path to get his money, and you start to learn more. And when he first meets his wife, I didn't know that was his wife or his estranged wife.
Well, they didn't make it clear.
It was just this woman. Like and somehow she was involved in doing him wrong. Like I got that. I didn't get it till much later that they at one point were married, and just how sad the story is.
Well, and then he basically tells her, "You're gonna help me, or you're gonna fucking die."
Yeah.
And he smacks her around a little.
And he smacks her around, and she says, I wish I could kill myself. And he says, basically, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
And what she ends up doing, I mean, I do not like this character at all. I mean, there's nothing. He ends up causing more. If you look at the book, he causes more of a body count of innocent civilians than he does actual.
Well, she's not really that innocent.
Well, I'm just looking at overall at the book. Most of the times when it comes to like the actual henchmen, he's like most of the time smacking them in the back of the head with a gun. He shoots maybe the main bad guys, but he ends up killing. I don't know how many. He killed that hairdresser.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one was bad.
I was like, what the fuck?
He does feel remorseful a slight remorse.
Well,
for
yeah,
that.
he calls the police. Thanks, buddy. He ends up, I mean,
It was an accidental murder.
with his wife.
When his wife
ends up dressing her nicely, slashing her face up to the point where the cops are almost like in a vomit.
Well, because I think he did that so that it would be harder to identify her.
Right. No, for sure.
It wasn't like he was like, sweet, she's dead.
I don't know.
I still have a grudge. I'm going to stab her face off.
I had, throughout the book, I just kept saying, this is a guy I'm not even rooting for. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. I liked him.
I did not. I was like, well, especially after the hairdresser incident, I was like, oh, well, sucks for her.
Well, he's not a good guy. But the thing is, it's almost like Dexter, where he's a bad guy, but he's taking it out on other bad guys. So you almost like,
well, if he only did that to other bad guys, I would say that, but he didn't, and that's the problem.
Dexter accidentally killed some innocent people too,
and it ended up being like this huge thing where he like went bonkers.
Yeah.
With Parker and the wife too, I don't think Parker ever understand or ever knew why his wife did what she did. He just knows. So maybe we should go into the story a little bit real quick.
Well, just go for it.
Well, it's a very brief story. So what happens is I'll cover just the real quick scenario. What happens? He is a thief, a bankroll guy, robber. He's kind of a utility player, and he gets by just on robbing, like when payrolls come in.
Small time heists.
Medium, I would say. Medium.
Yeah, medium. You're right.
Because it's enough money.
He does a gig every once in a while.
Yeah, so he'll get like $50,000-$60,000, and it lasts him a year, and he'll just live off of that for the year. He's never been in trouble. He's not in any system, and then
he works independently. Signs with a team.
Yeah, and he never
gets in, gets out.
Yeah, rarely works with the same people again. He just if he goes with his gut. If he trusts you. So he meets up with this guy. He's supposed to go on a job. Doesn't work out. One of the people on the job is this guy named Mal, which is Latin for bad. And he
very good.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And then he winds up. Mal's like, "Hey, I got this job where basically we're going to rob these gun runners. It'll be easy."
It's a little more of an elaborate heist because this involves like. Isn't it South America or Central?
No. They're going to meet off of Catalina Island.
Oh, okay. That's what
they're going to meet like on an island near Catalina.
Okay.
So the gun runners come in. They shoot everybody up.
Right.
And then they go back to this house that they...
Movie star mansion has its own private airfield.
Yeah. So then they go back there and Mal convinces Parker's wife to shoot him.
No. Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
What?
He doesn't convince her.
Yeah,
he threatens her life.
That's convincing.
Well, that's
so. Well, we can get more deeper into that if you want. If you're just
why don't we go?
Yeah.
Why don't we just continue the whole?
Sorry.
Yeah, and then she shoots him in the stomach, but it hits his belt buckle. Everyone thinks he's dead. Mal winds up killing everybody else in their group, and it turns out Mal can fly, so he flies. Parker's
they set the
wife.
house on fire too.
Yeah, they set the house on fire, and Parker leaves.
Right, so Mal basically takes out
the team.
The team. He takes out one guy, blames it on Parker, convinces the other guy that, hey, this is what Parker did, and then the other guy goes along with it, and he eventually turns on everyone, except for the wife, which he keeps.
Kind of. She doesn't want to do anything with them. So he just like keeps her in a house.
Which, you know what, to his credit, I mean, he could have just said, you know what, screw you, and blown her away, but he ends up like paying for her lifestyle.
Yeah.
And she actually, I mean, he never visits her, so it's kind of a cush kind of
She's just
prisoner.
Kept hopped up on drugs. So then Parker winds up getting arrested for vagrancy because he looks like he's...
Yeah, so he escapes. They think he's dead. They think he burned in the fire. He gets arrested.
And then Parker makes his way back to New York, and that's where the story catches up. Present day is he's back in New York after Mal to get his money.
Right. And he's slowly working his way up the chain from low rung to upper rung to find out where Mal is.
Yeah. So when the guy comes to drop the money or to get the drugs and drop the money for Parker's wife, Parker's there. His wife has already basically committed suicide with pills, and he beats the shit out of that guy.
Right.
To find out the next level guy is who is Stegman.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of you guys want to tell the story about Stegman,
he's the guy with the thin mustache, right?
Car dealership, yeah.
Does he have the call girlfriend?
No, that's Mal.
That's Mal. Okay, because I know like the call girls play a big part in this.
Yeah.
And helping him get his revenge.
Revenge. So Parker goes to Stegman, and basically just like I almost feels like when Bruce Lee would crack his knuckles in front of like his opponent, and basically he's just showing his hands.
Right.
Literally his mitts, showing him like, I can fucking crush your life.
Right.
if you don't fucking help me out. So Stegman turns on Mal and says, yeah, he's staying at this one hotel.
Well, no, he doesn't.
That's right.
Basically, he doesn't want to narc out too much because he feels like he's going to get killed if he does. So he basically says that Mal's in New York, I think protected by the Syndicate.
The Syndicate, now they're known as the Outfit.
Right. It depends on what organization, who you're talking to. They go by different like nicknames essentially. If you're a bunch of thugs, they're called the
Syndicate.
Yeah.
Or the organization.
Right. Exactly. And they're just an investment group, basically.
That's their front.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he manages to then. Doesn't he go to his ex-girlfriend, Rose? Is that her name?
No, so this is my thought on when Parker goes to Stegman to say, hey, tell me where he's at and do not tell anybody that I'm here. Don't mention that Parker is here to get Mal Resnick. But I think Parker did that on purpose, knowing that this guy's going to tell Mal that Parker's in town to get you. So that
because he couldn't find Mal, right? So he's trying to kind of get him out.
Yeah, trying to flush him out.
Flush him out, right? And then basically scare the shit out of him so that he goes to help to the Syndicate.
Yeah,
and then he'll basically show his hand.
So obviously, Stegman does that. He goes to Mal Resnick and says, "Hey, some guy with giant hands is here after you." And
I didn't tell him anything.
Yeah, he's like, no, you gave him up something. What'd you tell him?
Right.
Like I told him you were in New York. Like
right. I had to give him something.
Yeah, and he said, well, who was it? He said his name was Parker, and then that's when Mal kind of flips out. He's like,
right.
What? No, that guy's dead. He's like, no, that's what he said. His name was Parker.
Right.
So then
Mal goes to the Syndicate of whatever,
to the next, like his higher up from New York.
Because he had a debt he had to pay off, and that's why he did all this in the first place, was to give them the money.
Which the money
like
amount is like 90,000, which is like laughable. Like really?
Yeah, but in the 60s.
Yeah. Shit, now I would love to have $90,000.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying.
It's not like millions.
I guess in the end, like what Parker walks away with, I'm like laughing at. You did all this for what, 45,000?
Yeah.
Although I was just listening to when we recorded this. WTF had Bruce Springsteen on.
Oh, okay.
And he was talking about what it was like to be a musician in the late 60s.
Right.
He's like, if you couldn't get by on like $4 a day, then you were doing something wrong. He's like, it was so easy just to like scrape by in the 60s because everything was so cheap.
Right,
I believe that.
So yeah, $45,000 could have probably lasted you a really long time. So the Syndicate basically tells Mal, like, we've got three options here. Protect you and lose more of our assets, kick you out and see what you do on your own, or kill you and resolve the issue.
Right. We're
going to let you resolve this issue on your own. So you got to get out of the hotel we've got you staying in, or the apartment building that you're staying in, because you're jeopardizing our other assets.
Right.
It almost reminds me of the military when you join boot camp. When you go into boot camp, they tell you, you are now the property of the government. You're like, oh, you're not really a person now. You're property.
Right.
And that's how I feel like they were with Mal, and like all of their associates are your money to us.
Well, it's funny because I mean they mention it in the book directly, but they definitely try to run it like a corporation. No, despite the fact that they're a criminal organization, they try to actually keep to almost corporate.
Like they want to be in the black on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all wearing suits and ties.
Yeah.
But so then Mal starts staying in a completely different,
a fancy hotel.
Yeah, like the Oak, I think is what it's called, Oak or something like that. So go back to Parker, and he's now he's working his way through call girls because he knows Mal uses call girls, and much to if Mal had just been a better human being, he always cuts short the payment on the prostitutes,
Right.
or beats the shit out of them.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
just
the girl
treats 'em
Pearl.
rough.
He like just basically he was mad about something, not at her, and he decked that lady.
Yeah.
And that was like his regular, right? Like
Yeah.
he really liked her.
Yeah.
So then, so basically, all the prostitutes, the call girls, aren't really all that upset about giving him up, except for when it gets to Rose.
Right.
Parker eventually makes his way to Rose, who, while doesn't necessarily has slept with Mal in the past, she's aware of him and who
Right.
he works for, and they kind of Rose and Parker kind of have like a contentious friendship.
Right.
And then basically Parker threatens her because she doesn't want to give up Mal because if it makes its way to him or the organization that she gave up,
She's dead.
She's dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And Parker's like, I don't give a shit. You can die right now. Or
Didn't he beat her up a little bit
No,
too?
I don't think he's.
You know what? He might have slapped
But he
her.
threatened her.
Yeah. Okay, maybe that's yeah.
There was a lot of women bashing.
Yeah.
his
Yes.
Hard to
stomach.
keep track.
I don't remember which dame was hit.
Yeah.
but they all probably deserved it.
some form or fashion, it was their fault. But so she's fine, fuck it. There you go. This is where he's staying at.
Right. Basically, she calls
She
the
calls him,
main.
right?
No, she calls the main like hub.
Oh yeah.
And then
Like the madam
and saying, like, hey, he owes me $20, which is not unusual for him to owe money. And then they give up the address, and then she starts packing right away, saying, hey, and he even asks why, and I was like, well, basically the lady's gonna remember that I called about him the day after he's dead.
Yeah.
So they're gonna make a connection, and I'm dead, so I'm packing up. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And he just basically says, "Tough. See you later."
Yeah. So and this was surprising to me is so
she goes to go visit Mal for
Yeah.
the night.
No, that's a different. That's not Rose. That's Linda.
Oh, Linda,
It's
sorry.
Basically, a totally random,
Yeah,
different.
That's right. Okay, sorry.
but Parker stakes out the house that he's staying in. Oh no! I'm sorry.
She gives up the
Yeah.
originally when he visits her. She tells him an address, which was his old one.
Yeah.
That's where he ends up killing the hairdresser.
He breaks
accidentally.
into a place to watch, and he ties the woman up and gags her.
and she has like asthma or something.
Yeah.
She ends up being dead
So then that's when Parker goes back
and smacks her.
and smacks her, and he's like, "Hey, that was the wrong fucking place. Are you trying to set me up?" And she's
Right.
like, "No." And that's
when
she
he
calls.
beats her. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I know he beats her at some point.
Right, and that's when she makes the call to
Call.
the
Okay.
madam, and then that's when, and then it cuts back to Mal at his place, and then
And
it cuts,
Parker's coming through the window.
right. Well, and then they introduce for some reason this whole long thing, 2 pages of how Mal I think couldn't get it up, but then Linda managed to convince him otherwise, and he was best night of his life. Kind of
Well,
thing.
same thing with Parker though is that's one of the reasons his wife kind of double crossed or not. I shouldn't say double crossed him is or did double cross him, but one of her motivations, I guess, is he's not very affectionate or romantic, except for right after a job. So they'll like fuck right after something happened because
Right.
he's like juiced up from it, and then as it gets closer and closer and closer to like money running out and the gig, him planning for the next, heist, like he stops.
But I don't think that's her motivation for turning on him. I think she was just trying to preserve her
Yeah,
life.
because he even said, he's like, yeah, I know I'm not the best husband. Basically, he said that, but we found a life together. Like she's come to accept that.
And she's used to the rhythm of it, so to speak.
Yeah, and I really don't think she double crossed him. Like, I mean, she did, but when you find out like what happened and why she did, she really felt like she had no choice.
Yeah.
Although I agree that she felt like she had no choice, though I think she could have just
told him and,
and
he would
then
have killed
gotten
him.
the
Yeah.
gun and go, hey, while they're screwing, hey, there's a guy watching us from the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And then, then he would have taken care of it, but yeah.
So you're right. So he breaks into Mal's.
Gets in there and basically smacks Mal around a bit and it's like, give me my fucking money, and
I don't have your money.
And
The syndicate has it all.
and
I had to
then
pay him off.
kills him.
Throttles him.
Yeah, he strangles him, and I
How does the point he didn't
while he
kill
was
Linda?
nude too, and he was nude
Yeah.
when he Mal was nude. Parker's
That's a different story.
they both. Oh, you're naked. I'm naked too. I'm gonna kill you naked, Roman Greco wrestling style.
That's how Mal went.
Yeah,
So I think at this point it does do the flashback to the whole trip
to the heist.
heist.
Right.
So what happened, what you learn, is they do the heist. They're back at the mansion, and Mal's trying to convince people Parker is this bad guy who killed somebody. And so what happens is, what you see is Parker and his wife. What is her name? I feel so bad.
Mrs. Parker.
Okay. So Mrs. Parker, well, they're like having sex or whatever, and Parker falls asleep. And how does she get out of the room? He convinces her.
I think she's getting dressed or undressed.
Oh, that's right. She's doing something.
Because they've already killed. Chester's already been killed. I think that was Parker's friend, actually. They slit his throat. And then Mal showed Ryan.
One of the other guys.
Hey, look, this is what Parker did. He's going to do it to us. So then they're convinced to try to kill Parker. So they may go kill Parker, but they go, hey, why don't we have the wife do it? That way, I don't have to be the guy who has to face him. So they pull her out somehow when she's getting in a state of undress.
I think he pulls a little.
Oh, maybe it was the gun. That's right. And so she comes and
then they convince her by her knife against her breast.
Yeah,
that's when
what it was.
Then she's convinced. Okay, you either go along with this plan or you're dead. So then she ends up having this crazy sex with Parker.
And Mal thinks she's putting on a show for him to be
like,
look at me. Like,
it was really
he's
weird.
So delusional.
It was really weird. Yeah. But then, and then so she ends up pulling the gun on Parker and shooting him in the...
she hesitates. And I think Mal, he holds something up to like reiterate.
Right.
And so sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So she does shoot him. And as we've already said, it hits the belt buckle, and I think she did that on purpose.
No, because she thought he was dead. Well, okay, there's a theory that you could go. Maybe she did that on purpose.
Well, yeah, I think she did think that he was dead, but I think maybe she was. Well, I see both sides of the theory, but I think she purposefully was trying not to kill him.
If she was smart, that's what she would have done.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a hell of a shot to do.
Yeah, and then on their way to the airplane.
Oh wait, that's right, because he was getting dressed after sex.
Right.
So maybe she wouldn't even known about it. Maybe she really was trying to kill him.
And then, the guy who's a pilot, they're heading off to the airplane, and he gets shot.
Mal shoots him,
not realizing that Mal knows how to fly as well.
Yeah. And then so Mal takes the wife, like you guys have already said, back to New York, and he's gonna live with her, but she just. The guilt and the disgusting of him, I think, of mating with Mal.
Because they do have sex, but it's like
not what he wanted, and he thought like she was the most beautiful thing, but the sex is not good, so he kind of throws her to the side. But as you said, he still keeps up her lifestyle.
That's the only bizarre part. Is like he pays her nice lifestyle. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna get you killed or put you into prostitution or anything. He just basically keeps her like a trophy wife.
Who knows?
So, but and again, Parker isn't privy to all of that. He doesn't know why his wife. So to him, I'm sure he's thinking, my wife just was in on it and she did double cross me.
But he doesn't give a fuck. So
yeah.
Oh, me?
Yeah. So then it goes forward again to the next.
So now
book.
he's
now that you know why he's out for his revenge and why his wife double crossed him.
And so now he wants his money. He's killed Mal. Mal's given up all the information. The Syndicate has the money. That's the only people you can go to. So he goes basically to the guy that Mal was talking to and says, I'd like to get my money. And the guy's like, you gotta be joking. Do you know who you're dealing with? And basically tries to strong arm him.
Frederick Carter.
Carter. That's
Which there's an illustration where Carter's waiting in the office. I fucking love this illustration because of like this is the attention to detail that
Darwyn Cooke.
The name is on the window.
But the
glass.
But the font style was totally from that era.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's very Mad Men. Like everything's low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He just has like just the eye for detail on 50s and 60s. Like even with the Final Frontier.
Oh yeah.
That book is just beautifully illustrated representations of the 60s.
Right, the style.
Can you hold that page up again too? I think too what it represents very well too is you see how powerful they are just because of how big the building is.
Oh yeah.
And Parker's sitting down, Carter's above him, and it's very much like
it's not some laundry front. This is like a full on,
and it's a almost floor to ceiling giant piece of glass in the middle of the office that just says Frederick Carter. Right. Frederick Carter Investment. Like that's that you can tell they have money. But so he goes to Frederick and is basically like, hey, get me my money. And the guy's like, no, not gonna happen. He's like, okay, well, you're not the boss.
I want to talk to your boss.
Give me your boss. And so they call Chicago, and Frederick's like, I'm really sorry, or he's like, I need to speak to so and so, and whoever on the other end of the line's like, they're not here. He's like, get me Bob, you know, or whatever the guy's name is.
And you're not supposed to ever say their name over the phone because the
Yeah.
FBI might be tapping.
And the guy gets on. He's like, I'm really sorry. Frederick is to his boss, like, I'm really sorry I had to say your name, but they weren't letting me through. So they put him on loudspeaker or whatever, and the guy's like, no, we're not going to give you your money. So he's like, all right, and shoots Frederick just point blank in the head.
Well, not initially, right? Because he actually gets on the phone with the guy and goes, look, you're going to give me my money. He's like, do you know who you're dealing with? You know, no, I'm not going to give you your money, you street thief punk kind of thing. And then basically Parker ups the ante and says, well, okay. And then shoots Frederick right in the face.
Yeah.
And then I think, they communicate some more and they finally agree.
No. He threatens him. He's like, listen, if you don't give me my money, you guys think you're untouchable, but I know tons of unorganized independent criminals that will rob your casinos, your fronts, your drug dealers. Like, they're gonna rob all these places, and all I have to say is I'm Parker, and I've worked with all these people, and they're
out of loyalty and a grudge against the syndicate.
Yeah, I think more of a grudge than
because the syndicate's kind of untouchable in some ways. It's like kind of honor among thieves. They don't touch the syndicate stuff.
Or everybody just assumes that they're too powerful to touch, but Parker realizes like, no, I think he realizes how easy it's been for him to get up the ladder,
right,
to get his money. That like, oh no, we can do this. Like, there's no problem. Like, there are plenty of organized people. Independent people that can organize and rob you guys.
And it's a little hazy. I'm a little hazy as to what was going on in the story, but he ends up being at a lodge with one of the syndicate guys, and his two thugs are holding his suitcases. And
No. So what happens is, okay, so then they're like, fine, we're going to get you your money. Mm-hmm. We'll get you your money. And this is the part that I don't understand is they show Stegman, like, the page before this would be 121
where he gets killed.
Yeah, it shows a guy in a trench coat walking up the street, and then Stegman's outside smoking a cigarette in front of his car dealership, and he gets shot through the head.
I was confused by that too. I assumed it was the syndicate
killing him
because they realized he was the weak point.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you've just caused more problems for us.
Yeah. I paused on that too, though, because the story's a little bit longer, and I had to think back. Oh wait, who was that guy again?
It was very confusing.
And I had to
me.
think like, oh, why would someone want to kill him? And then I remembered he did say, "Well, yeah, Mal's in New York." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's coming back."
Right.
So
because I don't think Parker would have gone back and killed him.
Yeah.
Because I was confused because the next scenes take place where Parker's trying to pick up the money.
And I love this scene of Mark. So they're gonna give him his money, the syndicate.
Fine, we'll use a $45,000 fly swatter to get rid of you, the mosquito.
And so they meet at this. They agree on this location to get the money, but
Parker knows something's gonna be up.
It's like, he,
this is really well.
So
it's done so well. I love this part.
A lady gets off a subway and she's got a Pan Am bag, and he's like, nope, get back on there, and she's completely freaked out, like because I'm imagining it's gonna blow up.
Right.
Like, she does not want to get back on the train. He's like, get back on the train.
And before that, he sits next to a guy who's just reading the newspaper with his lunch, looks in the lunch pail, there's a gun, grabs that guy, and throws the guy through a restroom stall, which ends up getting another guy waiting.
But he tells him, he's like, hey, if you're gonna sit here and pretend to do something, maybe take a bite out of your sandwich once in a while. And then there was a guy standing next to a Coke machine too, and he took that guy out, and
and he surprisingly lets those guys live, which is why I got pissed, because it's like, you killed all these civilians, you have these thugs you're letting live. I guess as a message to the syndicate, hey, I really want my money. I don't want to kill you guys.
Or these guys ain't even worth killing.
Right,
like,
right.
I'm only going to kill people that make the decisions. These guys are just lackeys.
Yeah, and I was surprised how many people the syndicate sent after him. Because if you're not afraid of him, why did you have so much reinforcement? Like, that was
maybe it's to send a message like, hey, if you fuck with the syndicate,
we're all over the place.
And they don't want the message to go out. Well, did you hear about Parker? He was able to talk back to the syndicate. They wanted to definitely make him an example.
So he doesn't get the money at this point.
No, and then he I think he calls the higher up,
right,
the boss, and is like, get me my goddamn money. I'm gonna meet you at 3:00 at this, down by the piers or whatever. and that ends with him killing a bunch of people.
Right. No, they try to trail him.
Yeah.
And
then he gets away.
That part was amazing.
So he
And what's funny is
gets
he's
his money.
only 45,000.
Oh, sorry. So he does end up getting his money. But he even says, like, towards the end, like, he's going to get plastic surgery.
Yeah,
right.
Because he still
He's
knows
smart.
the Syndicate's going to be after him.
There was a part that I forgot to mention where he goes to, it must be the higher up.
Yeah, that's the one in the lodge with the guys with the suitcase.
And they're carrying the suitcases.
He knocks them out.
And he's like, don't make your muscle carry your suitcase. Like,
Right, because they can't react to anything.
Yeah. And
that's when the guy higher up is talking to the higher up and basically says, I don't know if he's bluffing, but I mean, he seems very serious.
yeah, and then that's when they're like, we'll give you your money.
And then that's the thing that it's like you could have gotten any amount of money really at that point. But he asked specifically for
It's the
his
principal.
half.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't ask for the full, like they did that heist originally for what, 80,000. He could have asked for 80,000. He asked for specifically his portion of the heist. And it was, the principal, which I think they actually end up making as a funny point in the Payback movie. Because he only wants that amount. He doesn't want more. He's not greedy. He just wants that.
Yeah, the higher up people are like, what the fuck are you going all this trouble for that amount of money?
Right.
Like, it's not worth it, man.
Right. Exactly.
I like when Frederick is explaining to Parker, like, as a business.
Right. Exactly.
That was debt no business would assume an employee's debt.
An ex-employee's.
Yeah, like that's not how this works.
Right.
Yeah, like that's
so very corporate.
Yeah.
Basically, I expected him to say, "Can you fill out a form? And maybe we'll reimburse
yeah.
you."
We need for tax purposes.
Yeah,
we're gonna
exactly.
need to have you fill out this form. But so I guess I almost hit the cord there. Was there any, like, other than that one illustration that I pointed out, any illustrations that you guys like really liked a lot? Like any particular?
I did like the scene we just talked about
Yeah.
at the bus station,
Yeah.
kind of with all the different characters, because it's only a page or two long, but it's so well done. It gives you so much information, and
Yeah, it feels rushed, but not like when you're a kid and you're trying to write an essay and it's only supposed to be 500 words long, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna rush this in real quick. It's
gives,
fast, but it's not rushed.
It gives the sense of
The
momentum.
immediacy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love this book. I think there's 3 others that he did. 3 of the other
With Parker.
Yeah, 3 of the other Richard Stark novels.
I did. This sounds really disturbed, but the visuals that he does and the drawings he does when they're convincing Parker's wife, when they do put the knife to her breast, like you could feel for me anyway, like the intimidation and the fear,
totally, yeah.
and just like how ruthless they were. And I thought it was really well done. And even though I'm making fun because she has big boobs and every comic book has big boobs, but she's so vulnerable at that time.
Yeah,
like she's
right.
defenseless,
Right.
and just how menacing and disgusting Mal is.
Well, and she's
With the visuals,
like
the
how he
face
illustrated
expressions,
it, like,
yeah.
but also like the
And her hair was perfect because it's the 60s.
Right.
I loved that too.
there's so much Aquanet in there.
Yeah.
But like she's completely vulnerable because she's down on the ground and they're all standing above
Right,
her like
right.
menacingly. Yeah, the guy was a master of illustration. It's really sad he
And
passed
again, I
away.
like the shading and the dark, especially when the more grittier scenes when he is
sure.
fighting, and I really like that.
Yeah, I could see where I don't know. It felt a little like, I don't know. Well, this came afterwards, but it felt Sin City like, because I know they come from the same noir kind of background, but Parker was definitely a little Marv-ish, just this brutish kind of guy. Well, Marv wouldn't have hurt so many innocent civilians, and
or women.
There was a lot. That's the only thing that bothers him, is a lot of women died in this or were hurt for needlessly.
What's funny to me is that I actually didn't mind that, because I saw him he's on a mission. If you're standing in his way in any way, he's gonna get all the roadblocks out of the way.
I agree.
Right.
Like,
And he really did try. I think he really tried to just kill the people. Like when he killed the hairdresser, not cool, but it
Right.
really was an accident.
well, like the difference between him and Mal is hurting women because he gets a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Parker if he hurts somebody, it's because they're in the way of getting to his goal.
Right.
Like that's
right.
he doesn't maliciously hit someone, but he does know his size. Like he knows how big and threatening he is, so he doesn't.
And
he knows how effective that is to get a point across.
And I think as a side note, we all at this podcast and at this table, we know it's never okay to hit a woman. We're not saying that.
What?
Yeah. But he only does it when he
know.
thinks he needs to. One thing I really liked about this too. So the first 2 or 3 pages, I was a little bit like, what? And I was like, God, here we go again. Because, but the flashbacks were actually, because it is present, then a large flashback. It's not back and forth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was done so well. And the suspense was there. Like, you're trying to figure out, okay, who, because again, I didn't know it was Parker's wife at first. I'm like, who is this woman? What is her importance to him? What happened? And I wanted to know, like, okay, what was the big thing? And as they're explaining it, it was done so well. And I just thought, the story was very cohesive and easy to follow, and I was engaged in it.
Yeah,
right, for sure. I agree. Where I like how they basically revealed information, so they didn't just lay it out. They could have rearranged how things were laid out, but they arranged it where, like, he's meeting this woman. You kind of know that they have a past. You don't know why she double crossed him, and then it's slowly revealed. Eventually, the story structure is great, and like I said, the last half of the train thing is executed so well. You feel the momentum, you feel the action. The illustrations evoked so much of the 50s, 60s. I almost could hear like the music in the background and just almost like see the colors that weren't there of like the walls and the carpet and everything.
I was surprised there wasn't like more drinking or smoking because of
That's
that
true.
era, and because he captured it so well, I was just expecting to see that, like that.
Although
that
it really
old school.
went over the top on like how tough he is. Like there's at one point where he goes to the diner and purposely breaks off the filter of the cigarette. Like, oh, he's so machismo. He doesn't. I'm not gonna have a filter.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have a cigarette straight up.
One of the things, getting back to Darwyn Cooke's illustrating style, is how he draws hands.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Johnny, do you like Darwyn's style?
Oh, I do.
Well, don't finish about the hands, though. But
No, I mean, it's anybody that illustrates will tell you, like, hands are one of the hardest things to draw. They've got a weird, just the layout of a hand is very strange, and hard to do well. And it's one of the things I know it's so like a minuscule thing, but I really appreciate the way he draws. Even in the Final Frontier,
Right.
like and it fits the era too, where everything's blocky,
Right.
and flat. Like when he draws thumbs, they don't
Right.
round; they're just like blunt.
Exactly.
And the nail kind of hangs. The illustration of the nail hangs over.
I really dig that style of art. There was also, God, who was that artist who did that? He used to do cover art for KMFDM. God.
Well, someone who draws a very similar style is Shag. This artist named Shag, and all of his, you've probably seen his illustrations of like cats and like girls on mopeds. He was real big in the early turn of the century. Shag was much more aware. He was in Juxtapoz magazine quite a bit.
Okay.
And he did the same thing where everything was kind of flat and squarish. I mean, there'd be curves, but when it came to the end of like whatever the object was, it'd be flattened.
Right.
So yeah, if you're out there, look up Shag, look up Darwyn Cooke, and then look up the painter named Shag.
I have never read his run on Catwoman. I think he did like some Catwoman ones. Yeah. I'd like to look that up.
So I know we talked about this. I'm not sure if we shared it on the podcast. This is from a different book.
Oh, right. So this is based on a book, you mean?
Yeah, we
Adapted.
It, yeah.
We did say that in the intro.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We're just not sure what the
I was listening to.
The Hunter.
That was the original book, was
Right,
The Hunter.
right.
Okay.
And this one is Richard Stark's Parker, The Hunter, adapted and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the actual The Hunter wasn't illustrated.
No. It was a
okay.
novel. It's a series. I think there's about
Crime,
10, 12
novel.
books. And Darwyn Cooke did, I think, 4 or 5 of them. I heard this one of them is almost written. There's not as many illustrations.
Well, yeah, I like his creative choices in some cases where there weren't a lot of illustrations and it was like a paragraph. But even his lettering is amazing.
Yeah. Well, you were going to mention this, Francis, before. You talked about how this is almost like the polar opposite of the Jinx.
Yeah.
Jinx.
So I felt like, so again, going back to, this is done really, really well. Jinx tried really hard from Michael Bendis. You know, he tried really hard to be these flashback scenes and these mobster guys, and it just failed.
And
it
engaging
felt flat.
dialogue where it'd be like long written parts
Right.
where it just
double crosses and
the woman is Jinx, and you know she's the main character, and you're trying to figure out her story, and it just kind of fell flat. But this again was done so well, and I think it wasn't trying too hard. That sounds terrible.
Well, it's almost a testament to Richard Stark or Donald Westlake.
I would agree with that.
He wrote the original story. You know, Darwyn Cooke just did an amazing job of adapting it. So it makes me want. I keep meaning to read the original novels just to see, what's painted there, what the author
pictured in his words.
Yeah, well, is it going to be completely tainted by Darwyn Cooke?
Right,
you know,
right,
for
sure.
I see only that.
You know, another thing about this story, like it could be true. Like you know, there's like some petty criminals out there, like not petty, like divas, like petty, like you know, they still like blackjack.
Diva criminals. I want to meet those guys.
That's gonna be a new show on ABC this fall.
But you know, there are people out there like this is their life. They do these crimes and they make some money or they do whatever, and you know that somebody's trying to. Because they're not the most honest people. I'm sure there's honest criminals out there. I don't mean to stereotype.
Honor among thieves.
Yes,
you're right.
But there are probably some that steal from the others, and how do you handle that? And
how do you resolve those differences?
Yeah, but I feel like this was like a realistic story. Whereas again, the Jinx. Sorry to keep bashing it. It was obviously like just made for entertainment. Like it wasn't. I didn't think it could really happen. I felt like. Here's the other thing about this, like, and maybe you just hit the head on that about when I read the book. I want to know what else happens to Parker later on. Like, I kind of want to know more of his past. With the other characters in that other book, it was a flat, like, okay, I'm done. I'm done reading it. I don't need to know anymore. I don't care about them.
Yeah.
I actually kind of care about Parker. Even though he's a sexist, horrible person, I have respect for him because he is, he
has principles.
Yes.
And he's not always navel gazing. I mean, the guy's very simple, right? Like, I want my money. I like a nice watch, a nice suit.
Yeah, I would like a steak. I like a nice watch.
Right.
Yeah, I like my suits, and I like to go and live on the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
Yeah, he's not even trying to get rich and live in this mansion. He just wants a decent life.
Easy, simple life where...
Like I mean, he's surrounded by beautiful women, and they're, like, throwing themselves on him. He's like, I don't have time for it right now, right?
Yeah, like, I'm busy. And there are guys like that out there, too, that are just, like... I mean, most guys don't, but there are guys out there like that. So I felt like he was a real character, and I want to know more about him.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for his wife. I
do too.
I want Parker to know. I want him to know why. Like, he doesn't know, and he never got to find out. And he's probably, like, even cold and hearted now because the one woman he trusted and loved, she turned on him, and now he's all alone. I'll be like, you're not alone.
But he had said, I mean, that he never felt emotional to anyone prior to his wife, and I got the impression that he probably won't again. But I don't think he like laments. I don't think he's one of those people that will navel gaze over his, the tragedy of how him and his wife ended their relationship. I don't think he's gonna, be listening to "Everybody Hurts" by R.E.M.
Yeah, when you are so practical that you dress your dead wife, put her in the park, and slash her face up, you're probably not going to look back and go, oh, I miss her.
Yeah. Or even talk about, I was married once.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What'd you think?
I really liked it. I was a bit hesitant the first few pages, but the story just like I was up till like 11 o'clock at night reading it, and I really liked it. I'd highly recommend it. And even as Johnny has mentioned numerous times, the artwork is so good. Even if you don't want to read it, you should just, when you go to the comic book store, flip through it, maybe just to look at it, and I think that will make you want to read it. It's just that well done, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I like heists. I like crime stories. This had all the elements I liked except for the punching of women in the gut and slapping them around. But besides that, yeah, awesome. Artwork is off the charts. Darwyn Cooke is amazing, or was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Darwyn Cooke passed away in 2016, correct? Or 2015?
No, I think it was 15.
Okay.
That sounds so long ago, but it's
I don't know. He might.
Sad.
2016 isn't a bad case.
But yeah, he is definitely missed in the world of comics and illustrations and art. But I love the book. It was great. Yeah.
When you owned this book, like you
I
already
did.
had
I
it.
bought
You
it in hard
recommended
copy. Yeah,
So-
and that's another thing with the jacket sleeve or the dust cover off. It's very 60s. Like the whole design of it is very 60s looking.
Even that shadow, that guy, that out.
Yeah, it's
outline.
just a silhouette of a guy, and it's like very stretched out. His legs are short, but it still works, and it's very roughly drawn. It's orange cover, like a light orange cover with
And the
a black
interior
spine.
wallpaper.
Is very 60s
Yeah,
looking.
yeah.
The guy did his homework. Darwyn Cooke did his homework on.
He loves that era, right? I mean, he.
Oh yeah, because he set the Justice League or Final Frontier in the 60s too.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
set in the 50s actually, and
Right.
it resolves in the 60s. But yeah, it's a great book. We highly recommend it.
If you aren't looking at the bookshelf and you see Jinx in this,
Right.
definitely pick the Hunter, and then as a favor, throw away the Jinx for the bookstore.
Yeah. Just ask them not to carry that book ever. You shouldn't have this on. That book's probably out of print.
Probably. I should save my copy. Maybe.
No,
when I something.
I had the unfortunate ability to purchase the digital version on Comixology, so it's not out of print. It should be.
Digital print.
Yeah, digital print at least.
But, well, where can folks follow you there, Francis?
You can follow me at Words in Waffles, where you'll see all the book covers
Yep.
of the books we've discussed. Book covers of the books.
And then Graphic Novels Explorers Club can be found on Twitter at GN Explorers Club.
We haven't said it in a while.
I know. And then at gnexplorersclub.com.
All right. And you guys can follow me on Twitter at Serious Talk Twit and on Instagram at, I forget.
Is it
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You'll find it.
And
We're in Sacramento.
Yeah,
You
and
can
my other
follow us
podcast
there.
is stspodcast.com. Thank you for listening. Please recommend us to your friends, family, if they love graphic novels or comic books, whatever you want to say. If you're not pretentious, comic books.
We're not pretentious comic book nerds.
And we really appreciate it. And we'll be back probably in a few months with season 2.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. That is Dennis's son Nate running around like a maniac. Again, we will be back next week with our bonus episode. We'll be discussing Flashpoint by Jeff Johns. Again, I'd just like to say thank you for listening to season 1 of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. And we'll also be back in June, roughly, with the first 3 editions or volumes of I lost my train of thought. Preacher. There we go. Anything?
Yeah. If you have any ideas of what we should be reading for season 2, please feel free to drop us a line once again at our email, gnexplorersclub@gmail.com, or contact us on Twitter at gnexplorersclub.
Please share your thoughts and opinions with us, as Dennis just said. Even if you're just now getting caught up, I ruined it. I ruined all of it. Yep.
Why are you even here?
I know, I ruined all of it. I ruined that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think vote if you would like to have Frances back again on season 2. Your votes count, and her hosting is based upon that.
Yeah.
I'm like Danielle from The Real Housewives of New Jersey. I only get 1 season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Puck.
It was nice knowing you
Because you
all.
put your fingers in my peanut butter.